Hi guys, so I had to end up using Screencast to make this video instead of the Canvas because my computer just wasn't cooperating. But for my literacy lesson, I ended up using a lesson that I prepared for my practicum course, and in my classroom, we were focusing on historical fiction, and we started this novel called Cast Two Shadows, and there's a lot of dialect within this, and so I wanted to teach a lesson on dissecting dialect and how to understand the dialect within the text. So the standards that I selected were Standard 5 and 5.1, cite multiple examples of textual evidence to support the analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as inferences drawn from the text, and use context clues to determine the meaning of words and phrases. And the outcomes that I wanted the students to get from this was I wanted them to be able to identify different forms of dialect found within this novel, and I wanted them to understand the origins in the real world and where these dialects came from and why they're in the text. And then I wanted them to be able to translate the dialect examples into the standard English that we speak. And then I wanted them to explain the significance of the use of dialect to the character setting and plot, because only certain characters speak in this dialect. And then they needed to do the opposite and translate standard English back into this dialect of a chosen character, and they did that by collaborating with their classmates. So the two texts that I chose were Cast Two Shadows, and I don't have access to the book anymore, but the students only read up to chapter 5 for this activity, and so all of the dialect examples only came from the first 5 chapters. And then I had this video, it's a YouTube video, and it's just people from, one person from each state in the United States, and they give examples of their dialect and accents, and it just kind of gives the students an example of how many different dialects can be within one area and what regions of America have very similar dialects, just to kind of get them started and interested in the actual topic. And then the potential bottlenecks that I picked were the language level and the background knowledge, because if the kids aren't familiar with the dialect being spoken or written, it was really hard for them to actually understand what these characters were saying. So if they had never been introduced to this before, they were really going to struggle. And then I did background knowledge, because if you don't have background knowledge of these dialects or these topics that are being discussed, then you're going to struggle as you go through the book and try to decipher this language. Because when we were in class and we asked the kids, what do you know about the American Revolution, barely any of them could tell you that it was between the British and the Americans, and that it was a war, and who fought with who, and what was it over. Like, the kids really struggled, and so I really think they need this background knowledge. And so this is my Think Aloud plan, and this is strictly just why you need to decipher the dialect in Cast Two Shadows, as you can see. And then as we come down, I have 2 burning questions, and the 2 things I would really like your feedback on are my selection of standards and if they're realistic for one lesson. I really always have a hard time picking standards, and just if you guys can give me some feedback on what you think, because I feel like they're very specific. Do you guys think I need more? Do you think I need less? Should I only have picked one standard? Do you think there's something else that could have been better suited for this? Just let me know what you guys think. And then my second one, if the text is going to be used in multiple lessons, which this one was, it was going to be used over like a month. Does the lesson state what portions, passage, or the chapter will be used in this lesson? Is that a realistic amount for adolescent readers? My question is, the examples that I gave came from throughout the 5 chapters whenever I created the lesson, but when I released it to the students and I let them find their examples, they had a really hard time trying to find them because they were flipping through 5 chapters. Do you guys think I should have just narrowed it down to find examples in this 1 chapter or find examples in these 2 chapters? Do you think I should have just focused on 1 chapter instead of all 5 chapters whenever it came to actually applying the things learned in this lesson? Just let me guys know what you think. Thanks.